Hey, what's up? I'm gonna do a quick and dirty video here installing this TRQ distributed universal fuel pump inline on a 66 Ford EconoLine. Basically, the symptom that I have is when this thing doesn't run for a little while, I go to start it, there's no fuel in the lines. So I posted on forums and was given this particular part number as a link and suggestion. Basically, the idea is to have a switch on my dash where I push it and I prime the carburetor. Small motor. I don't have EFI, it's just simply carbureted. And what happens in my case is the carb dries out and drains back into the tank and I get a cold start. And with these little batteries, I sit there and crank on the ignition enough to kill the battery almost before this thing will fire up. So the idea here is to have a button on the dash, I push the button, it primes my carburetor, and then the thing starts right up. Here's that TRQ distributed fuel pump. This is like a low flow, 12 volt. So I have a couple of leads here. Now, unfortunately, the documentation's horrible, so I don't know which direction this goes. All right, I got a dummy motorcycle battery here. There's some schmutz inside of it. It should shoot out. It looks like it was primed with oil, so see which way this thing goes. Okay, so suction's on this side. And it's pushing that way. So if you bought one of these, the cable side's the output. I'm gonna go ahead and mark that. Just got back from the hardware store. I picked up all the goodies I'm gonna need. So I didn't want to go run by my storage room, so I grabbed what tools I had, and what tools I had was missing my cutter for the steel fuel line. So I went and picked up one of these guys. It was 11 bucks, so that'll be like the unnecessary purchase of this thing. But I figured, you can't go wrong with hookup wire. So I picked up some 12 gauge, wanted 14, but they're out. So this will work fine. I got this cool old school looking big old nasty switch. Momentary with the light would probably be better choice. I thought this one just looked cool. I got an inline fuse. I picked up some self-tappers that are stainless, so these should last a little longer. My hose clamps, some waterproof, weatherproof butt connectors that are the heat shrink style. I picked up some spades. I'm gonna ground this to the chassis instead of running a whole black cable all the way up. Figured that'd save me some expense and some hassle. And I picked up about what's that, 14 inches of fuel hose. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my electrical prep here inside in the air conditioning, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so it's prepped up. I got everything taped up here so I don't have to wrestle with the slack. Let's go ahead and put her in. So a reminder, when you're using rotary tools and things over your head, you gotta be safe. So here's my safety Elvises. Yeah, boy, we got the self-tappers in. That's a good mount. Comes right out. I have no major impingements or folds, and hose clamp is on. That thing's got fuel to it. Now let's take care of the steel line here. Alright, so that's in. We got the pump in physically. Now we got to do the electric. Just did a simple grind off of the grime. Might hit it with paint when I come back to do the body bolts, because I want to make sure this is all fastened in something a little more permanent. Alright, so ground is in. I'm going to route the cable and make sure that this thing works. Leaving a little slack so I can tie it up. Routing through the existing stuff. All right, so I'm thinking what makes sense for this switch is down here by the choke. You know, since I'm coming up here to choke the motor anyways when I'm starting, why not have my little switch down here in this area, maybe even right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna route this off of my ignition, basically, so I'm not doing as much of an amp draw when I'm getting that thing primed. Then I can just cable right into the back of this bulkhead, right to the battery, inline fuse, done deal. All right, so a quick note about these single pole LED switches that I noticed. Now let's take a look at the labels. So if you look at the switch, it says power, ACC, and ground. So what that tells my mind is not the same as it needs to be hooked up. So what you want to do is you want to do either the lead from your ignition or the battery into that center pin. Now think about it this way: you got a switch, it's pointed to the right. That's one circuit, the two right pins. The other way is another circuit. So when it's in this position, it's connecting these two pins. When it's in this position, it's connecting these two pins. So what it looks like here is it looks like it wants to be power, device, ground for the light. But in fact, it's power in the center, device on the left, ground on the right. I imagine you'd be making a weird little short and probably blowing fuses if you did it the way that the labels seem to be. So I picked this one up as an extra. I guess these lights go out all the time. All right, I got it all wired up. I had to change the switch out because the one I bought was bad. So it's going in. I ended up picking up a goofy, but kind of cool, little light up switch with a little skull on it. So when you turn it on, the skull lights up, which I think is kind of silly. In the meanwhile, I got a switch to run. This one's the Tang style, so I put some female spade connectors on it. Let's get this thing going and get Scully. Turn them on. Lights up. Pump goes. So it's working. Let me take out my jumper. And I'll put in a fuse. Alright, so to be clear here, the problem is not that this truck needs a primer pump. The problem is that it has a leak. So this thing's been sitting for overnight. And we'll check and see if our thing worked here, huh? Now here's the moment of truth for did my primer pump do the job? This thing has been sitting overnight. And normally in this situation, I go to start it and I get a hard start because there's no fuel in the line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit my primer pump 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We'll give that a shot and see if she starts up. Cool. It looks like our little project here worked out perfectly. I want to assure you that this thing hasn't been running all day today. Now I'm also parked on an incline, which makes the gravity pull the fuel back toward the tank. So that's a cool little project. I hope you liked the video, and thanks for watching, huh? Have a good one.